Hello, guys. Welcome back to Sister Land Investors. I'm your co host, Elizabeth. Today, my co host Cindy's not here, but we are excited to have Miss Ariel Herrera here today with us. She's all about tech and real estate, which we are fascinated about, and we want to learn so much about AI. So, Ariel's going to help us with that. She's also the founder of Analytics Ariel and the co founder of Coffee Closers. Hi, Ariel. How are you today?
Hey Elizabeth, super excited to be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you for your time. First of all, I appreciate you being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, how you got into real estate and the tech business, how that comes into hand.
Sure. So, yeah, my name is Ariel, based out in Tampa, Florida, but I'm not a Tampa native. Originally, I was born in New Jersey, New York area, and I grew up there. Studied business, and when I went into my career, was working in New York City. This is where the kind of epiphany of real estate began. I spent the first 5 years commuting in and out of New York City, about 2 hours each way. And there was one day when I was just staring at the New York City skyline, and I was like, I cannot do this the rest of my life. I just felt like cattle being shipped in and out. I was like,
Where
there
were you
needs to.
commuting to?
I was commuting into FIDI, so the financial district, as I was working in data science, so programming in the financial space.
Oh, okay. That kind of explains where you're heading toward.
Yeah, exactly. So my pain point there, even though I loved what I was doing, was I would come home, I'd be tired, and I wouldn't be able to really give myself fully to my family, my friends, and the other curricular activities I wanted to do, which I think a lot of people come to that point of frustration. They think, how can I choose to work rather than be forced to go through a schedule? So that's where I started to research financial freedom, and like most people, real estate coming towards the top of one of those options to reach financial freedom. And the reason why I went with it was because it was one of the only strategies that has been done for centuries. And of people with less resources still being able to be profitable and change their families' lives. So in that journey, decided to commit to get my first rental. But as a lot of people figure out in real estate, the path is not just narrow, like one single lane. There's a lot of different paths you can take. And I realized that there was a big gap in data, having data help drive those decisions. So ultimately, use data to help me with my first investments, create a channel to kind of guide others on how to use data, how to use automation. And today, that's my main focus.
Oh, I like that because that's huge. I've been hearing a lot about ChatGPT and different AI tools, especially in everyday life, but especially for us real estate investors. How are you finding that? Because I know in your podcast you interview a lot of people in real estate that use it. What have been your top three ways or tools that could help us investors or people that want to get into real estate?
Sure. So I would break this out into three different steps. The first that I see a lot of real estate investors, both beginner and those that are advanced, struggle with is leads. Being able to get high quality leads in a fast and accurate way. So you have these software, say like PropStream, which they're great, but they are great in looking at the whole entire United States. But Elizabeth, if you're doing land specifically in a certain county,
Hmm.
you may not need to know what's happening in Wyoming for,
Right.
top land. So what happens is that you're using these other softwares to get this data, but this data is usually stale. So what you can do to get these leads firsthand is to be able to scrape these leads directly from your county records. So for example, if folks are going into pre-foreclosure, that might not show up in these big systems until next week. But if you're actually going to these websites, copying down the information, you can get this firsthand within a couple hours. But I would bet you don't have the time to do that manually, right?
I'll make the time if I have to. No, but who has time? We're busy moms. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's where web scraping comes in, and tools like Browse AI allow you to basically train software once to be able to follow your steps. And then going forward, you can get that into a spreadsheet, say automatically every day. So leads, that's one way to automate. Then what do you do with leads? How do you actually analyze them or put them into your software, your CRM, to start marketing to these leads?
Hmm.
That becomes another like level of automation. So tools like Zapier, have you heard of that,
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes, we're
Yeah,
using that. Yeah, it's helpful.
awesome. So an example there is Zapier. Once you get those leads from Browse AI into your spreadsheet, you could use Zapier to then connect that over to your CRM. So now automatically you have the leads coming in, you have them going into your CRM to be marketed to. And the last stage, using like ChatGPT, like you mentioned. So when it comes to analyzing, usually investors are getting data from all different areas. But if you use virtual assistants or advanced assistants like ChatGPT, think of it almost as an intern. And if you give it the right instructions of what websites to go to or how to like curate information, you can ask it things like, can you analyze this deal for me? And be able to pull from the direct sites that you need, get that level of information so you can make faster decisions.
I like that. So I hear a lot about what you ask it to give you back is very important. They're called prompts.
Yes.
I haven't been very due diligent on that, but I do have a lot of questions, and I'll give you an example. We are buying in Tennessee, and I'm learning that Tennessee, some of the land is not, the soil is not suitable, like to build a home, and we buy it to wholesale to for wholesaling, either to sell to builders or to the end buyer. So are those questions I could ask ChatGPT, like in this county, or well, even in the county itself, there's areas, but can they get specific, like this little area or this zip code? How is the soil? Are most of them suitable? Like, will it get that specific if it does have that information?
Potentially, if the data is publicly available for that. Otherwise, you would need to like buy the data and provide it. But one thing you could do, it's kind of along the same lines, is feed it documents. So a lot of the times for these counties, you'll have like 200 plus pages of zoning regulations and all these different intricacies for maybe an area that you're, fresh going into. So
Mhm.
what you could do is upload the document that the county provides and then tell ChatGPT, like, please be my expert on these documents. Act as my paralegal or whatever you want to say. And then you could then ask questions and it'll refer to you where in the document to learn more and just basically help you sift through that a lot faster.
I like that. Okay, so upload them and then just tell it to give you like a summary or be the expert on it.
Yeah,
I like that
exactly.
because I was the one doing all that research and calling, and that is a huge life changer. So thank you for that. Okay, my next question: what was the most significant challenges you faced when starting real estate? Because a lot of the people that ask us questions is, "How do I get started?" They're not in real estate. I've given them our how we got started. What was it for you, and how did you navigate getting started into real estate?
Sure. I think one of the most difficult parts was deciding on a market or like where to invest. Because I kept reading over and over again that like you can, buy a distressed property, you could fix it, you could redo a kitchen, but ultimately you can't pick up that house and move it.
Right.
So I was hyper conscious, like, all right, it needs to be in an area. For me, my goals was up and coming because I was investing in my 20s, okay with holding on to something that's kind of like on the borderline of becoming a more thriving area. So at first, I was really hung up on like, what city should I invest in? Reading all the news articles, getting data, but then I realized that it's more granular than that. You really should know like what neighborhoods and blocks to be investing in.
Mhm.
And that's a combination of things. That's being quantitative, where you're looking at numbers, you're doing the research of how has population changed from last year to this year, are there new jobs coming to the area? But then it's also qualitative, which people don't like to hear, but you need to get out of your computer and just start talking to folks. Talk
Right.
to local agents, property managers, and even if you're doing it out of state, you can get on the phone. You can join some of these free like Zoom calls that these investor groups have. And once you start to ask like, oh, where are the kids who are coming out of college with good jobs? Like, where are they moving towards? Where are the military families local to the area? Where are they going? And then from there, you can paint a picture of like what exact parts within the city could be good for investment, rather than just being hung up on like Austin, Texas, or Tampa, Florida. That's too broad of a
Yeah.
thought process to go with
Those have been
investing.
very popular lately.
Yes.
Okay. And what challenges did you face starting off? when you first started, when you first bought your first, was it rental properties you started with, like homes, single family
Yeah,
homes?
so it was rental properties, and I think the biggest challenge was, even though I'm data focused, is like stripping out the emotion aspect, because end of day, like we are humans and we can get emotional about our investments. So when I first started in 2019. By 2020, beginning of the year, I had 3 units. And at that
Congratulations.
stage, yeah, it was great. But then COVID happened, and literally all 3 units were like, we can't pay, either loss of job or things along that nature. So luckily, I was still like working full time, and I was essentially covering my own mortgage that I'm living in, then like 3 other rental units. So I was very frustrated. I'm like,
That's so
why am I paying for
hard.
other adults to live for free? But had a part of me wanted to sell because at that time prices started to go up and I could probably still come out profitable. But then I went back to the data and I said, emotions aside, population is growing in these areas. We see median household income growing, more education coming to these areas too. The new ferry that I was waiting for to be developed was still in progress. So that helped me just to kind of segment out the emotions, see the data was still there for the area to be thriving, and ultimately stay with my investments. So I think that was the biggest challenge, but able to overcome it with data.
That's huge because a lot of us, especially as women, we do get emotional. And how did that work out for you now after 4 years? How's it? Do you still have them?
Yeah, I still have the units. So one of them, this is my first property that was actually a house hack. So I lived in the property for a year. That way I can put down like only 5%, and then I rented it out afterwards.
That's
So
smart.
that property appreciated about 50%,
Yeah.
which during that time, a lot of, across the whole country, a lot of properties were appreciating. But it was 10% above like the rest of New Jersey. Definitely a big win there. And I'm glad that I ended up holding it and still have it
Yeah,
today.
congratulations. That's a great way to start. It was scary. It was
Yes.
scary at that moment. It's still scary because a lot of people are not sure to buy or sell. So that's huge to get the emotions out, which is hard. What kind of inner work did you do? Did you do a little self-talk there?
A little bit of self-talk, and then I also brought in my mom because
Mom's up.
she's very like, yes, she's like, this is your money. You can't like mess with this. You have to really think rationally. So whether it's a family member or it's maybe a contractor that you have a great relationship with, having someone who's not biased and maybe doesn't have their investments tied could be great just to bounce off the feelings that you have.
That's beautiful. Thank God for moms. Then, Ariel, how did you maintain strong and positive mindset through the COVID? A lot of us, even now, like I hear a lot of in land investing, it's been a little challenging for a lot of us. How do you cope? Because I we try to also put a little bit of mindset because I think 90% for me, 99% it's mindset. But can you tell us a little bit of what you did internally or kind of your thought process? I know you mentioned it through your setbacks in investing. You kind of briefly went in through, but do you want to dig in a little deeper in that?
Sure. So I have a little bit of a interesting approach when it comes to how I like talk to myself and do self affirmations. So I know a lot of people, they'll start their day in the mirror and say like, "You're smart, you're beautiful, you can do anything that you want to accomplish." I take a little bit of an opposite approach, and I'm kind of like, "You don't want to be a loser. You don't want to be that person that wakes up waiting for the liquor store to open, gets a six pack, and then sits in front of the TV and does nothing all day."
Yeah.
Like, if you are telling yourself you're not a loser, you should be able to accomplish all these tasks that you set out. And if you don't, you're really setting yourself short and you're not using your time optimally. So, having
That's
that,
like a kick in the butt for you.
yeah, exactly. So, that helps me kind of get going. And then also, I think that's like my short term mindset, but also having the long term mindset is critical as well. So, my long term is being able to have that time freedom, be able to sit with my parents, sit with other members of my family at any given time that I'd like, because
I
I
love
have the
that.
financial ability to. So, that goal helps me as well to continue.
I love that. Yeah, having long-term goals and that freedom. I think that
Yes.
freedom is the one that pushes us through all the challenges, knowing that eventually you get there. Can you share some key strategies or tips for women that are looking. I think all of us want that financial freedom, emotional freedom to know that we can do and have everything. For those that do want to do it through real estate, can you give us some strategies or tips that want to build their real estate portfolio? Like how they could get
Sure.
started, where, like you mentioned a little bit, but more into that?
Sure. So I would say the biggest thing is probably network, right? So real estate is a great avenue to be able to gain financial freedom because there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. You can go into land, you can go into long-term rentals, you can go into pad splits, larger developments. There's so many different areas which it could be intimidating for folks to even know where to get started. So by starting to just talk to others who are either in the same boat as you as beginners, or even those who are more experienced, you could start to understand like what are different paths that I could take, what is maybe, the best one for me, and maybe I should partner on this for like my first deal or so. So I think networking is huge, which you could just do looking up. Even if you want to invest out of state, you can just network with people in state too by looking up like local investor groups. And when it comes to the data aspect, the way I see a lot of people get hung up is deciding which markets to choose, just because of the fear of like, oh no, if I choose the wrong market, I can't pick up my investment. So if you get really clear with your goals, it almost becomes like seamless of like where you should be looking. So if you know like how much money you could put down, if you're willing to do creative strategies, how long you want to hold the property, are you choosing cash flow versus appreciation? I do have like a little guide on like these investment goals to set for yourself, which I could send to you after to share.
Yes, absolutely.
But that, yeah, that really helps to dictate like where to be investing. So if you really are risk adverse and you don't want to invest somewhere that has hurricanes, you probably just wiped out Florida and Texas and probably Louisiana easily. If you
Yeah.
want landlord friendly states, then you probably just, X'd out all of Northeast. So it really becomes easier once you are able to set your goals.
Know the end. Know the end. More about your like offer for women that are starting in real estate, what you could offer them so they could come to you.
Sure. So first time ever, and since me doing this in the last 5 years, is that I'm actually offering coaching to be
Yeah.
able to walk through the steps. And it's not just giving you the guidelines of how to think about real estate, how to choose a market, how to analyze deals, but also the software as well. And I'll walk you through a little bit of how this came about.
Yeah.
But as I had my YouTube channel for about 4 years, absolutely no one watched it for the first two,
That's how
maybe
we
just a
are right
couple.
now. Restricted.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, ChatGPT comes out. And even though I wasn't talking about ChatGPT necessarily, everyone's minds switched. They were like, wow, like we could actually really leverage tech, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's automation techniques or other softwares to help in our real estate process. So that's where a lot more interest came in how people can use automation and save time. But from there, every little tool that I would build, the next investor or viewer would say, Ariel, how can we just do this faster? Is there a way that I can just have everything available? Like, I don't want to have to connect all these things together. So that's when myself and my two other co-founders built a platform called Coffee Closers. And that basically helps to find deals, ones that you can add value to. So more for people who are looking at like single family or multifamily properties, and then ultimately close on those deals. So what I do offer today is that software along with coaching to help within a 30-day to 60-day time frame get your first deal.
I love that. That is so neat. So they come in and you kind of coach them through the whole process.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it's a specific 5-step process where
Okay.
it's the goal setting, then it's understanding where you want to invest, getting specific on a buy box, which is basically like your filtered criteria. You're not going to look at all the US homes available,
Right.
but if you have a specific set of types of properties you want to look at, it becomes a lot easier. And the fourth is analyzing those deals, which everyone gets stuck on the numbers, which is important, but there's so much more that goes with the deal. Like, can you add a bedroom? Is there value add opportunities? Is there risks? Like if you look at the location, is it a block away from a casino? You might get more foot traffic that way, maybe people hanging out outside the property. These are all like things to consider as well. We walk through that, and then the last stage is actually making an offer, which we have the ability to automatically create offers so that you can send more and higher volume.
That is huge because that saves a lot of time and headache and struggle. Like what you've created there is huge. I think people should take advantage because that took us a lot of time. Like even to jump on the boat took us a lot of time. We were undecisive. So should we switch to land investing? Should we stay with rental properties? And my husband kind of helped us make that decision. He's like, I'm done with rentals. I'm done fixing toilets and
Yeah.
ACs. So that kind of like, okay, well, we're going all in. But for people that do like it and have the team, because it takes a team
Yeah.
to do all this, that's huge. So you're providing a great service for especially anyone that wants to get started. We didn't have this.
Yeah. The way I like to think of it, Elizabeth, is say if it's a Saturday morning and you're deciding with the family, like, what are you going to do for the day? You're going to go to a park, you're going to maybe venture out. First steps is like putting on your shoes and walking out the door. Now imagine every time you make that decision, you have to build the shoe. You have to build all your shoes to be able to walk out the door. It
No.
just makes no sense, right? But in real estate, we've been operating that way for such a long time where everyone's spending so much at that beginning stage of setting everything up, when in reality we should be strategic and using that latter half, like deciding what to do for the day, deciding like, is this a good investment or not, and just
Yeah.
make quicker decisions.
Yeah. I like that. Thank you for that. Is there anything else, Ariel, that I didn't ask and you want to ask or any? Let me ask you this. What AI tool has been your favorite in real estate, like analyzing and all that? Which one has been your favorite?
At this stage, it changes, but at this stage, it's probably ChatGPT,
Okay.
and I pay for the premiums, which is $20 a month. What you get when you pay for the premium is that you could build your own mini GPTs.
That.
So, say if, let's use an example here. Say if you were a wholesaler and you're doing cold calling, and you have maybe hours and hours of logs of like what you would say on the phone. And now you need to start doing other things. Maybe you're starting an operation in Tennessee, and now you need someone else to be doing the calling for you. But you're going to take so much time training them, right? What you can do is basically download all those files of when you've done those calls, quickly use something like Otter to get the text from them, and then have your own GPT where you just upload those files. And then going forward, you just say like, hey, you're now my expert of like what to say on calls. And you're going to help our like assistant whenever she doesn't know what to say. So now your assistant could just basically pop up like Chat GPT, but just your specific GPT, and then say, oh, the seller just asked this question. Like, what do I say? And now it's trained on your previous recordings, all without any code. It's like your own real personal intern.
I love that. Well, then.
Yeah, and I've used it for myself. Like, luckily, once, being on podcasts and having YouTube videos, I have a lot of transcriptions for myself. And sometimes part of my day could just be an hour answering emails. But now what I can do is with my own mini me that I've trained, I just like write a really quick blurb for the email. And then I say, put it in my tone and like correct any like mistakes I had. And it'll instantly like rewrite the email for me, which saves me now going from like an hour a day of emails to maybe just like 5 minutes.
Oh my God, I need to start on this because that's me. Monday mornings, I spend like at least, well, for me, it's not an hour, it's like 2 hours because it's not only work, it's the kids' schools and all the other
Yeah,
activities that come along. So, oh my God, I need you in my life. I need to clone you. Okay, is there anything else, Ariel, that I didn't ask you that's important for a lot of people that want to start in real estate investing that could help us?
sure. I think the last thing is just taking action. So by listening to this podcast, you're already doing probably 85% more than most people who even are just interested in real estate they're doing. So if you are a beginner, you're at the right stage and you just need to start taking action, whether that's getting a pre-approval, whether that's going to a local networking group. Like now's the time to really gain knowledge and take steps. And if you are someone who's experienced, now is the stage to see how you could utilize tech in your operations. And don't be intimidated. The best thing that you could use today is a ChatGPT, Gemini. Ask it questions like, hey, I'm doing the same exact steps every single day by copying information from a website. How do I automate it? And it'll tell you. So it's really neat because on both ends, as a beginner and as an experienced investor, there's a lot that we can do to further our businesses.
I love that. So now that you mentioned Gemini, let me ask you that because I've seen a lot of Gemini, ChatGPT. Is there a huge difference? You've played with both, or do you have both? And what's the difference?
Yeah, they're always updating in terms of their models. I'd say when it comes, like I find ChatGPT, the paid version, to be like the best for my use cases and for me to be able to train it on things that I say or uh, like customization. But if you just need something more basic to answer questions, like Gemini is free, it's trained by Google. Google has tons of information, so it's a great model to use as well. But I just want to preface that, like, as much as you could use these GPTs to help you, like, real estate is a in person business. So it is really important to cultivate those relationships that you have with individuals as well.
I love that. Thank you so, so much for those tips. I'm going to listen to this again because you said a lot there towards the end. Who you follow in the real estate investment that you find that maybe we don't follow that we should be following and listening? You're one, Ariel. I follow I when I started doing my search. So this is how I found Ariel, guys. I started researching when ChatGPT first came out. I went on a hunt. So how can this help me with my real estate investment? And I found you doing a video on Browse AI, which I played with it a little, but I do need to dig in more deeply. One that we may not know of that we could listen to or hear aside from you because you're very knowledgeable.
Sure. I would say Following One Rental at a Time Community by Michael Zuber.
Oh, I don't.
So
Okay.
yeah, his background, he got into real estate maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago or so. He was working full time, building a portfolio on the side, and his whole theme is getting to four. If you can get to four rentals, you can change your own life and your family's lives dramatically. So he preaches that, and every single day for about 15 minutes a day, he has a financial news segment, and this is where like so much value comes from.
Okay.
Because I don't really have the time to research like how lumber prices are affecting new developments and like how real estate is changing because of that. But he'll do that research and he'll basically summarize based on the interest rates, based on commodities and other things in real estate, how like you as an investor or an agent will be affected by it, all within 15 minutes. So
Oh,
highly
wow.
encouraged to watch it.
I'm going to go find them one rental at a time.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. And for mindset, because I'm the person that needs to get up in the morning and scream in the shower and get pumped up. Otherwise, I'm like, oh, one day. So, what do you do for mindset to get yourself pumped up? And
Sure. So, actually, taking a step back, when I was in college, my main thing was like, need to get a job after this to make it worth it for my family, helping pay throughout my way. So, I knew that as I was going to go on these interviews, not all of them were going to be a home run. And there were some interviews where like I just did not click with the person on the other side. I might have said the wrong thing, but I always told myself it's just one step to get closer. Like I have to take these little learning lessons in order to get closer to being able to achieve a job. And I think you have to look at it the same way as a newbie investor is that, yeah, you might say some awkward things, you might not vibe with someone, whatever. Like it's just all part of the journey. If you can see the end of the road and just continue to improve on like what you're saying over a call, your 30-second spiel when you're meeting someone for the first time, when you're networking, it gets a lot easier and people are pretty forgiving. Like I've never had a situation where someone was upset with me or like, told me off. So don't be so hard on yourself in that aspect.
I love that. I love. Read any books on real estate or mindset that you
I
would?
used to. they've kind of all merged into one at this stage. But what I do like to do is segment my time. So like Monday through Thursdays, go hard days, wake up at 8 a.m., don't stop probably till 11 p.m. But then like
Oh,
weekends, yeah, long days. Weekends, I really try to spend time with like family. Like they're my battery, right? So they, help me to fully rejuvenate and feel empowered to, start again on Monday. Being able to recognize what gives you that battery is huge. And also segmenting your time, like don't become a workaholic where you just work 24/7 throughout the week. Like either take breaks during the day or like myself, like kind of bunch it all into like 4 straight days and then have a little bit of a breather afterwards.
I love that. Those are great tips. And where can we find more information about you, your coaching programs, what you're currently offering, the coffee
Sure.
coasters?
You can go directly to my website, analyticsariel.com, or you could same techandrealestate.com, and that'll lead you to some of the coaching that I have, and also I have a ton of free resources. Like if you want to see like how do I find a market, I already have free tools that pull out all that data into a dashboard that you could use. And I love meeting new folks, love being able to hear about your goals and just see what you're motivated to do in real estate. So if you wanted to schedule time with me, you could also do so in my webpage.
I love, thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Is there anything that you want to add to this that you wish more investors would ask? Something?
Sure. As a new investor, I know a lot of folks say, I don't think I could ever partner with someone because what am I bringing to the table? I don't have knowledge. What you have is time. And a lot of investors who are experienced, they start to run out of time and they may not raise their hand and ask for help, but this is a great way to be able to leverage a partnership. So, for example, like I have a lot of folks say like, Ariel, can we partner on a project? And like, I'm too busy to, teach someone brand new, like how to do programming. But, I do have content management and putting things out in social media. That takes up a lot of my time. If you came to me and said, hey, like, I'd love to help, like, edit your videos. I'd love to help, create a blog based off of this recent video you did. Like, that's adding value. And I'd love to be able to, in return, show you how to automate certain processes. Of course, like, that makes sense. So as a newbie, you have time on your side, still recognize that that's a bonus and you could learn from others by partnering with them and offering some of your time.
Great tip. Thank you. Yes. Appreciate your time. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the knowledge. Thank you for everything you put out because I've been consuming your content. And yes, we'll be following more and hopefully have you on in a few more months and see what's new out there.
Excellent. Thank you
And if
so
there's
much,
anything
Elizabeth.
I could do to help you, please feel free to reach out to us. Okay.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariel. You take care. We appreciate you. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay.